Know how hard it is getting that clunky, old-style wheelchair in and out of your car. Introducing the Feather Chair Wheelchair. At 13 pounds, it's the world's lightest wheelchair. It folds in seconds and fits neatly in your trunk, backseat, or closet, so you can take it everywhere. And it's only available right here. Order yours today and get a free wheelchair case, a $50 value, yours free. The Feather Chair. The world's lightest wheelchair is just $4.99 with easy payments as low as $16 a month. Sorry, no Medicare or insurance accepted. So call right now to order yours.
800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. That's 800-823-5826.
If you are trying to quit drinking or doing too many drugs, listen to me. You don't know me and we'll never meet. I had a problem like you once. I drank and used to party a little too much till it got out of control and almost ruined my life. I realized I needed help to fix my problem before it totally destroyed me. If you've tried to fix your drinking and drug problem and you know you can't do it alone, you need to call the National Treatment Advisors. They'll immerse you into a 30-day program to replace your old habits with new habits and totally change your life. And if you have PPO private health insurance, the entire program may be covered. Fix your problem right now before it gets any worse. Get clean. Call now and learn more. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581.
Attention all business owners and creative minds. Do you need a unique and personalized touch for your products? Look no further than Romika Laser Engraving and Custom Designs. I'm Ron Phillips, co-owner of Romika Designs. We offer custom laser engraving services for a variety of products, including promotional items and corporate or personal gifts. With state-of-the-art equipment and a team of skilled designers, we can engrave intricate designs on virtually any material. Whether it's a special message, a company logo, or a custom design, Romika Laser Engraving will help you make your mark. And the best part, our prices are affordable and our turnaround time is quick.
I couldn't be happier with the work Romika Laser Engraving did for me. The engraving on my product was precise and exactly what I wanted.
So don't wait any longer to add a personal touch to your products. Call Romika Laser Engraving and Custom Designs today at 817-400-4040 or visit our website at romikadesigns.com. We look forward to helping you make your mark.
Hey travelers, do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call, because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. Our prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find ridiculously low prices for you. Call SmartFares today and get the best price on your next flight. Guaranteed. Also, save up to 50% off business and first class tickets.
855-325-1820. 855-325-1820. That's 855-325-1820.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Sonia V.
I'm Iguaran.
This is a common thread.
The wins, the losses, and the curveballs.
Thanks for joining us this evening. We hope you had a good Thanksgiving last week. And so you can see there's three of us today. We have a special guest and we're very, very excited to have her come this evening to share her story and to offer some hope in the midst of grief and the common thread that we all have when it comes to grief and loss and hope. because we all want hope at the end of the day, right? And so, Eva, how was your week? Tay, how was your week?
So far, so good. Thanksgiving was pretty awesome. My husband's uncle and aunt and a couple of their children came visiting from Colombia.
Nice.
So that's our common thread. We have both of us have family who
It was Colombian.
live in
Yeah,
Colombia.
live in Colombia. My husband was Colombian.
So we had family that had never been in our home.
Nice.
So it was a nice Thanksgiving. He was learning about Thanksgiving for the first time because in Colombia they don't celebrate Thanksgiving.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Tay? How's your week been?
My week has been good, yet busy already, and it's only Wednesday. But it's the good busy. And Thanksgiving was great. It's bittersweet because my kiddo, who is no longer with us, her birthday fell on Thanksgiving. So it's one of those bittersweet. We spent it with family, and then we remembered. So it was good.
What day is her birthday?
November 27th.
Okay, 27.
Yeah, those anniversary days and then as a holiday
Mhm.
on top of that. So, well, Miss Tay, we know Miss Tay. We met about a month and a half ago.
About a month.
Yeah, and she's got an amazing story. So I'm not going to steal her thunder, but her and I had a moment while I was there, and it was a very precious moment, and I appreciated the vulnerability and just allowing me in your space at that moment because it was very heavy. But
Yeah.
we need that. We need that space that we can feel that. And I think the room was heavy, but I think we needed that. There were other people in the room that were feeling what you were saying. So,
Yeah.
um, so I'm gonna give it all to you at this moment. Share a little bit about yourself and tell us who you are and your story.
I'm Tay Robson. I am a 4-time, almost 5-time published author. I have been in social work and social services for 34 years. It's a labor of love. It's the labor of my heart. It's the work of my life. I am the nana mom to 3 little boys and the actual mom to 2 adult children, 3 actually, one who is no longer with us. My story, boy, it's changed so much over the last 7 years that sometimes I don't even recognize my own story. And when people say, tell your story, I'm like, where do you start? Do you start at the part where you felt whole, or do you start at the part where you fractured? And so I guess today I'll start where I fractured. April 21st, 2018, the greatest tragedy of my life happened. It took place, and that was the death of my oldest child, Deja Marie McKinley, who was unfortunately unalived at the hands of a former partner. And though I feel like my story started long before that, I think that's where my story begins now. And that in that story, it's oftentimes difficult to say that the greatest tragedy of my life has birthed some of the greatest blessings of my life. And so that's kind of where that story begins.
Wow. How did you, what was your first, like what happened exactly? Like it happened. How did you hear about it? Yeah, walk us through it.
April 21st, I was out in Arlington, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, getting my hair cut. And as I was getting ready to sit down to barber's chair, I got this phone call. And I was like, okay, don't know the number, but I answered it. And it was a Fort Worth police officer. And which is a very unusual call because they just don't have those kind of kids. And so he said, hi, is this, and I was like, it's Miss Robson. Hi. And he said, hi, do you have a daughter named Deja McKinley? I said, I do. And he said, well, can you come to our apartment complex? And I was like, sure. Can you come pick up your grandsons? And I was like, where's my daughter? He said, we'll discuss that when you get here. And my very first thought is, she never leaves the kids. What's going on? And then I thought, oh my gosh, we live in Texas, warrant roundup. Maybe she's got a ticket. And she just didn't. So immediately my first thought was, look at your bank app and see what you have. So in case you have to pay this ticket, because I just knew my kid couldn't take even sitting in a police car. So I was like, okay. And he's like, all right, well, we'll see you when you get here. And he hung up. When I reflect now, there was no sinking feeling. I wasn't worried. There was no anxiety. I was just like, oh, okay, let me go get my grandboys. Let me go bail my kid out, you know? And I started driving. But my friend, who was the barber that was cutting my hair, she was like, I'm going to go with you. And I was like, sure, you can follow me. I mean, but I was barely 6-7 minutes in the car on the way. And the officer called me again. Mm-hmm. And he said, Miss Robson, are you on your way here? And I said, I am. But like I stated before, I'm in Arlington. I'm not 10 minutes away. It's about 22 minutes. And he said, get here as soon as you can. And I was like, okay, so where's my daughter? We'll discuss that when you get here. And I was like, okay, that doesn't sound right. Something about this just is not right. And then the seeking feeling set in. Mm-hmm. And so when he called me that second time, it sounded more urgent. And I was like, you know what? My mom's nearby. And I told him, my mom's nearby. I'll have my mom come over until I can get there. And so I hung up with him, called my mom, and I was like, please go over to Deja's apartment. There's an officer there. There's a police officer there. And I guess they were looking for somebody to grab the boys. And my mom was like, okay, you know. And we hung up. Maybe 5-6 minutes later, my mom calls me and says, I'm scared. And I was like, I'm scared. It's not where that's not the normal response. What are you scared of? She's like, there is a fleet of police here. I said, a fleet of police? She's like, there's a fleet of police here. And I said, Mom, well, ask them what's going on. And so she says, okay. So she goes over and she talks to the officer and she says, hey, what's going on? And the next thing I hear was my mom let out this sound that I've never heard before. And she just, into the phone, she went, Mom! My mother called out for her mother, who has been passed away since I was like 7, maybe 8. And I was like, okay. She said, they said she's gone. And I said, she went, what do you mean gone? Where'd she go? Where'd she go? And she said, no, they're saying she's gone. And I said, Mom, what do you mean gone? And my mom said, Deja's gone. And in that moment, I think I'm driving, so I can't like lose it, but I think I lost it. I started screaming at all the people in front of me, like, move, 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 move. And I started driving probably faster than I've ever driven in my entire life. And I just remember thinking, like, gone could mean out of the apartment complex. Gone could mean at the store. Don't panic yet. Not that I'm doubting my mom, but oftentimes, you know, maybe the information is just not translating. And I pulled up into the apartment complex, and sure enough, a fleet of police was accurate. And the officer walked up to me and he said, are you Miss Robson? I said, I am. And he said, you're Deja Marie McKinley's mom. I said, I am. And he said, Miss Robson. I said, yes. He said, I regret to inform you that your daughter, Deja, has been killed. And I have no idea what happened after that. The next thing I remember is taking her just newly 2-year-old son out of the hands of a social worker. And my grandbabies, the 2 older ones, saw me walk into the building and said, Nana, Mom got dead. Chris shot Mom. And I was like, this is not happening. There's no way. I don't have these kind of kids. I don't have the kind of kids that somebody would hurt. I don't have the kind of kids that would be in the world doing something that would result in them being killed. I don't have those kind of kids. And wasn't my kid at home? How did this happen? And then the officer started piecing together what they knew at the time, and that the boy was not arrested. He ran. And that's the beginning of the last 7 years of my life. And it's still the worst day of my life.
Wow. That's intense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just envisioning all of it in my head as you were telling the story. I can't even imagine.
It is the unimaginable. As a parent, it's the thing that you never ever, ever want to hear. You never want to encounter. You never want to happen in your life. And we think about grief in the sense that we're not talking about it in society as much as we need to. We're not training, we're not teaching, we're not providing the tools, but it's the great equalizer because we're all going to experience this kind of loss. It's the appointment of us all, but it's the appointment that is least discussed.
Right.
So you mentioned more than once, these are not your kind of kids to be in a situation like this. And I would just like to tell the listeners more about your daughter.
My daughter, Deja, was my mini-me. It's the one that's, you ever have that kid that's like just like you?
Yeah.
You're like, oh my gosh, this kid is just like me. I mean, when you think about agape love, people say, I don't know what that is. I've never seen it, but I've seen it.
Mm.
This is the kid that would give you the shirt off her back. This is the kid that even in her own trials would show up for you. This is the kid who, even at the deepest depths of her own sadness, had a kind word, had a smile that lit up rooms, had a laugh that was infectious, and just a personality that was exceedingly contagious.
Mm.
This was the kid that I knew if something ever happened to me, she would be able to pick up the mantle and make sure the rest of them were okay.
Mm.
She was an amazing person. And a lot of times we get to death and we rationalize the people who we lose as superheroes. But she was a superhero. This person was trying to come into her house and do more harm to just her, but also her children. And she gave her life for those kids.
Mm.
So, superhero, absolutely.
Mm.
She died for the things she loved most at the time, and that was her kids.
Mm.
She's an amazing person.
Wow. How are the kids doing now? Do they remember that moment?
Yeah, the boys remember.
Okay.
The youngest one has lapse of memory. He was only 2. He had
Right.
really only just turned 2. But the older 2, they remember, but it's in spurts. It's in bursts. Things come back to them in bursts. And what they do not remember, they feel. Sometimes with grief, you don't have to remember the actual act, but your body remembers the actual grief.
Mm.
And so they experience a lot of that.
Mm. Wow. So why do you think grief is such a... We talk about grief a lot on this, but I think it's an important topic because I don't think it's talked about enough. I think people shy away from it. Why do you think, especially in our culture, because I think in other societies, maybe not as much, but I feel like for instance, we only get 3 days bereavement. To me, that says a whole lot about how we feel about grief. I mean, why do you think that?
Well, I think that in the Western culture, grief is uncomfortable because if we talk about grief and loss, we also have to face the fact of our mortality.
Mm.
And in a country that believes everything is about the pursuit of the fountain of youth, about extending life, the end of life is the most uncomfortable thing to think about.
Mm.
And with the uncomfortable thing comes loss, comes grief, comes mourning. And we're nowhere near prepared or equipped for that. We're too uncomfortable. So we can't even sit with each other in it. Because your grief is my grief.
Mm.
And if your grief makes me uncomfortable, then I can't imagine what my grief will do.
Right. Right.
And what I've read is that we weren't ever created to experience grief or loss or death. So it's just such an unusual thing. And unnatural.
Agreed. On a spiritual level, when you look at it from the spiritual level, we were not created to die. We were not created to experience death. The Bible talks about death being the final enemy. When Christ returns, he'll deal with the final enemy, which is death, whose other name is Satan. So when you look at that speaks volumes for death. That speaks volumes for how it intrudes and how intrusive it is on a life. It's not supposed to be there.
Mm.
And God calls it the final enemy.
Mm.
And so it's not natural for us. It's not conceivable because we were never supposed to experience it.
Hmm.
And I think that plays a large part in us on a natural level, on an innate level, that when this thing comes, nobody's prepared because nobody's ever anticipated this being an outcome. Not for real.
Um, well, I'd like to talk a little bit about how what did the days following that moment, the weeks following that moment, the months following that moment, what did your grief look like? Walk us through that a little bit.
Well, before we walk through that grief, we have to understand what grief and mourning look like. Mourning are the external things. It's the sadness, it's the tears, it's the crying, it's the all it's the setting up the shrines, it's all the observable things, it's the external things. And most times in this culture, when the mourning stops, we assume that the grieving has stopped as well. Because grief is internal. It's a collection of the emotions that we feel, the things that are happening inside of us. And that lasts a lifetime.
Mhm.
Where mourning is a moment, grief is a lifetime. And for us, I think that because there were so many people attached to our grief, to our loss, that my grieving didn't start for a very long time because I was taking care of my two kids that remained, my mom who lost her very first grandchild, my grandboys who lost their mom, and then all the people attached to that grief. So for me, it was a blur. I don't even remember the first week. I remember going back to work immediately, and I remember showing up at work and my supervisor saying, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Whatever you do, don't make me go home." And he said, "Hey, what are you doing here? You need to be at home." And I said, "No, the most optimal version of me is manifest when I'm helping somebody else. So please don't make me focus on myself. I need to focus on something else."
Right.
And he let me work, and I worked until a few days before my daughter's funeral. And even that, I don't know if my brain suppressed it because your brain protects you. It's primal. Its primary function is to keep you alive, keep everything functioning so that you stay alive, but it's also to protect you. And so I don't know if it suppressed so many things to protect me,
Hmm.
but I don't remember a lot leading up to it.
Mhm.
I remember snapshots of her funeral, but I couldn't tell you the whole. I couldn't tell you the whole ceremony, what it looked like from start to finish
Mhm.
at all. And I think after that, over the months, we had the boys. They were always there because we would care for them while she was at work. So they were always there. But it's something so shifting about them being there all the time. The first 6, 7, maybe a year, I spent just my brain just kept saying she's at work and she hasn't come home yet. They're here because she's at work, like she's always been, like they've always been. I'll just wait for her to come home from work, and she never came.
Hmm.
How old were they?
At the time, 2, 3, and 4 days from turning 5.
Oh wow.
So 4 days after my baby's loss, we had a birthday party for her son because we just could not let these babies know how bad life was. Not yet. If we can delay that, not yet. So we had a birthday.
She had a 2-year-old. And what did you say?
3,
And almost
3,
5.
4 days from turning 5.
Wow.
Well, I mean, at that age, their thinking is so concrete. They don't think abstractly. I mean, you can't even use the word passed away. They're sleeping. I mean, you really have to say she's. You can't even say gone because
They're dead.
they're dead. You know, she's dead. Yeah, I mean, and it's such a big word. You think for a kid, but you really have to be that
Transparent.
transparent with them because they don't understand anything else at that moment. Now, when they're like 10 or 11, then you can start using words like that. But wow. So you had gosh, not just your grief, but the grief of your mom, the grief of your grandbabies, your children. How are they doing?
Even 7 years later, you see the impact. Our family has been ratified. We are such a different family. Though we're still loving and connected, you see the weight, you see the heaviness. I still think that we're navigating our grief, although I really believe that This is the 7th year, and 7 is the year of completion. 7 is the number of completion, and 8 is the number of new beginnings. And I believe that as we come into this 8th year of her loss, prayerfully, some of this will lift, I hope. But you see it.
Mm.
You see it on the kids. You see it on my kids. You see it on my mom. You see the effects. You see it on me. We all move differently, quieter,
Mm.
more intentional, with more caution, with more fear. You see it.
Yeah, because there's always that fear that it could happen to
It's gonna
someone
happen
else.
again. Yeah.
So you're always on this kind of anticipation, like on your tippy toes, waiting. It's too quiet. Things have been quote unquote good for some time. And then I don't want to put my 2 feet flat on the floor because maybe,
The pivot will bring something.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that story, your story. I'm sure there's someone out there that has gone through something similar um and there so that moment that Tay and I had was when we hadn't gone to the group in a while, right? So it was our first time meeting you. And she actually so there's every week someone speaks from the group and we all like have a 1 minute commercial. We go around the room, but then there's someone that's got 10 minutes to kind of share about their organization, about their business, whatever it is. And Tay was sharing that day, and we were like, there was like you could hear a pin drop in the room.
There was not a dry eye.
There was not a dry eye, and there were men in the room that were tearful.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, this is what this group needed. Because it's in those moments that you really find connection. Because when we're laughing and happy, those are that's a moment to connect too. But can you really connect when there's like the room is that heavy?
Yeah.
And that's how you build relationships, right? And so when she shared the story, I was like, wow. And I'm gonna let her talk about in the second half, we'll talk about what came out of this, what birth, like no one ever wants this to happen.
Some people were, I will say, uncomfortable and wanted
Yeah.
to move on from that feeling.
I could see it. Yeah.
Well, it was
was spoken.
audible. It
Yeah, it
was
was
like,
spoken.
please move on, please move on. Like, so we've all experienced different levels, right, of grief, but there were quite a few who were pressing into that and really feeling that, and others who were trying to shy away or run from it.
Mhm.
Right.
There are probably some in the room who this was that monumental moment where they got to say, I'm still hurting. This still affects me. And if this is a place where I'm supposed to be connected, where I'm supposed to network, where trust is being built, where friendship and connection is being established, then I need for you to know this about me. This is important for you to know about me. That sometimes I come here and this is what I bring with me. Sometimes I'm in this space and this is how heavy I feel. And I think for some people, they connected on a different level.
Mm-hmm.
It opened the door for a deeper, more resonant connection. And some people, it brought to life the end of life.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
This happens. And it happens more often than we know. Sometimes we're sitting in rooms, and I've come to learn this as I've been navigating through this time in my own life. After my daughter died, nine people that I'm in varying degrees connected to lost their children in a matter of 2 years. And each one of them came to find me.
Wow.
How are you surviving this? How I see you on Facebook. I see you in these different spaces and you're alive. How are you? I feel like I'm going to die. I feel like I'm going to die all the time.
Mm.
I make the choice not to. That's acceptance.
Mm.
And with GCHM, that's how we define it. You've had to, and you know this when you're going through grief support groups and all this grief conversation, the last thing you want to hear is acceptance. I will never say that this is okay. I will never accept this. But then we need to define acceptance a different way.
Right. Right.
And it's not saying that this is okay or that even though this has happened to you, we're saying put it behind you. But acceptance is a 3-part experience. It's saying that this happened, and I realized that this happened. It's recognizing that it cannot be changed, and then choosing every day to move forward in spite of it.
Ooh, I hate that we have to go to commercial, but we're going to go in about 30 seconds. Wow. I love this topic. And I'm glad that we're talking about it again. But we are going to go to our commercial break in about 15 seconds. And we want you to please, please, please come back and join us for the second half. See you soon.
Have you ever met a single person in your life that enjoys paying taxes? No, no one does. If you can't sleep at night because you have a huge problem with the IRS, I've got some free advice for you. This service is strictly limited to individuals that owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes. And if you qualify, we can guarantee that you won't be writing a big fat check to the IRS, or our services cost you nothing. The first 100 people that call today will get a free tax consultation worth $500. Stop worrying about your IRS problem. We can help you, we promise. Call the tax doctor right now. I mean right now, to learn more.
800-240-4587. 800-240-4587. 800-240-4587. That's 800-240-4587.
Why have thousands of aspiring authors teamed up with Christian Faith Publishing to publish their book? Because Christian Faith Publishing is an author-friendly publisher who understands that your labor is more than just a book. We provide authors freedom and flexibility throughout the publishing process, professional book editing, award-winning design, and some of the highest royalty structures in the publishing industry. And as always, you will retain 100% of the rights to your book.
I was looking to find a company that I could trust, one that assisted in the editing process completely.
The most important qualities that I was looking for was a publisher who was honest and upfront, no hidden costs or fees, and owning the rights to my own work.
Christian Faith Publishing will publish, market, and sell your books in all major bookstores, online booksellers, as well as specialty Christian bookstores. Call for your free author submission kit.
800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. That's 800-978-4812.
Welcome back to A Common Thread. I'm Sonia V.
And I'm Iguaran.
And we have our special guest this evening with us, Tay. And we'd like to read our commercials for this evening. NTX Radio proudly serves all of North Texas and can be heard all over the world on TuneIn Radio Network and on the NTX Radio app, available on Android and Apple CarPlay, or just ask Alexa to play NTX Radio. Check out our lineup and more at ntxradio.com. We thank our valued sponsors in helping us amplify the voices of North Texas communities and businesses. So, protect your family with a will or trust. Connect with Todd Hurd and Associates, attorneys at law, for all your civil law needs at texasattorneylaw.com. Processing credit cards? Join the Swipe Nation today and save on processing fees at swipenationusa.com. Locally owned and operated, and will beat any rates. Got sleeves? Dress your arms and more at thetiffy.com for women's accessories and more. Made in the USA. And it's time to take your business to the next level. Hosting a radio show and podcast is a powerful way to connect with a wider audience, build brand awareness, and drive sales. Let's discuss your business goals and how a custom show can help you achieve that. Email Tiffany at t.hurd@ntxradio.com to get amplified.
So if you weren't with us, we just heard a powerful story from Tay. She was very vulnerable, and I I would like our listeners to, hopefully, if they didn't hear the first half, they'll go back and listen. But there's still a lot that we're going to need to cover in this time frame. But I would love to just learn more about like this, I guess, your mantra
My organization
or your organization.
and my life mantra. It's both. GCHM stands for Grief Can't Hold Me, and it was birthed out of realizing that that's what it was doing. Grief was choking the life out of my life. And one was because I didn't understand what grief actually is. We consider grief an enemy. When grief comes to our life, we're like, oh, I'm being tormented, I'm being punished. But the reality is, grief is the blessing that comes from the loss. Grief is love. It's just love that looks different. It's love that has nowhere to go, nowhere to be. And it was when I realized that grief was love, and I was still trying to love on my daughter, that I realized that what was actually choking me was loss. Because grief is love, and where there is great love, there is great grief. And so throughout this process, I started saying to God, I would do all these different things to honor her and to memorialize her, to remember her, to keep her life, her legacy, her story alive, not just for myself, but for her kids, for my kids, for my mom, for those of us who are still here and existing in this space and saying, this life mattered. Even in death, this life mattered. And I remember I went to a beautiful retreat, my first any kind of therapy, since my daughter had passed away, at a Memory Grows, which is an amazing place. And I was a part of the first group of individuals that participated in the gun violence retreat. It was her first one. And when we got there, I met these amazing moms, Trisha, Tanya, and Rosalind. And as I met these moms, what I realized was the common thread was gun violence. The common thread was loss. The common thread was pain. The common thread was uncertainty, fear, anxiety, depression, worry. And we decided to stick together, to stay together. We had been connected in such a unique way that I don't think any of us expected. And as we started to connect outside of our retreat time together, we started meeting just to kind of keep each other encouraged, just to hold space, just to love on, just to say, I see you, and what you've gone through has been witnessed by not just heaven, but me here on earth. And I want to walk alongside you because you're not by yourself. And one night we were up, we were talking about creating this platform for people like us, moms who had lost their children. And it just came to me. Grief can't hold me. And grief can't hold you. And so GCHM, or at least the concept of GCHM, was built and birthed in that moment. And over the next, I think 6, 7, maybe 8 months, I started building out what that would look like.
Wow.
And it came to life.
You know, it makes me think of the enemy, death, Satan, has a plan.
Yeah.
But here comes the amen part. God has a greater plan.
Absolutely.
And in the end, God always wins.
Amen to
And
that.
so Satan's plan is to destroy and to kill.
Yeah.
But for God has put us on this earth to thrive, to live, to honor his life, to walk in faith, to walk in strength, to walk knowing that he is there with us, and no matter what we go through, God is gonna get us to the end.
Yeah.
Right. And the end goal is we have that hope that this is not it. Right. And the fact that you, out of tragedy, have birthed this company, God gave you this vision, gave you those words.
Yeah.
Because that came from him. That just gives, I don't know, when I saw the name of your organization, I said, that is hope. And Yeah.
And I know you probably have heard this, but it primarily comes from Genesis 50, verse 20, where Joseph says to his brothers, "You intended harm to me, but God intended it to be good to accomplish what is now being done, say the saving of many lives."
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So there's many artists who've done different renditions of this, or I hear one in my head right now that's just like what the enemy meant for evil,
God worked out for my good.
Mm.
Absolutely. And I believe that. I think that part of this came to my life because I've heard since I was probably about maybe 11, like, God's got a great calling on your life. You've got a big calling. I remember, 95 or 6 maybe. I was sitting in my office. I worked at I was a paralegal for Southern Minnesota Regional Legal Services, and my coworker was an amazing was an amazing woman of God. She just was. She would come to work and she would want, "Tay, let's pray." And I'd be like, "Yes." Like, we're in a law office, but let's do it. And we would close my office door and we would pray and we would just encourage each other. And I remember being like, this is how I want to live my life. This is what I want to do with my life. And she came to work one day and she said, "Tay, I had a dream about you." And I was like, don't do that. Don't do that.
No dreams in here.
Prophetic dreams always don't do that. She was like, and she told me, she said, "I'm going to tell you what I saw in a dream and what God told me." She said, "I see you and you're on a stage and you're walking back and forth and you're ministering the word of God with the humor that you have. And you're talking to women, you're talking to people who are broken, but you're bringing them back to God. You're bringing them back to healing, to the awareness that God is in every bit of everything that you're going through." And I was like, "Really?" She said, "Yep, I see you. You're going to be a speaker." And thus my speaking life began. I actually started speaking when I was 19. And ever since she said that, everywhere I go, somebody's like, "Can you say something?" I was like, "What do you want me to say? What can I say? Why do you want me to say anything?" And I realized throughout a lot of this, the attack has been on my voice. The enemy meant to silence my voice. I'm a writer. I wasn't able to write anything for almost 6 years, actually 7. And I realized just 8 months ago that that's what this was. This was an attack on my voice. Because I'm supposed to minister God's word. I'm supposed to talk about God. I'm supposed to tell my testimony. And a testimony is wonderfully a 3-part formula to testify to the goodness of God, what he's done in your life, and what he's able to do again. And now that's what I'm doing.
Wow. Well, her prophecy was correct.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. When I hear stories like that, because I've heard stories like that before, and I'm like, and they come to life for real.
Yeah.
And that's amazing to me. I did want to give you an opportunity. I know you're an author, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to share about your books and a little synopsis of what each book is about.
So I started working on Hey You, which was a follow-up book to Best Piece of Advice. I'm also a life strategies and grief support coach now. Well, I was a life strategies coach before this, but I also added a grief support coach since this great loss. But I started working on Hey You 8 years ago, the year before my daughter passed away. And I remember sitting on my back porch because I put it down because I was like, I don't know what I want this to be and how it's supposed to look. And I'm also working on my autobiography, which I've been working on for probably 14, maybe 15 years. And the last connecting conversation me and my daughter had, we were sitting on the back porch and she was like, "Mom, when are you ever going to finish those books?" And I was like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what I'm going to write. Like, I don't know how they're supposed to close and climax. And she said, "Mom, are you waiting to be amazing to finish your book or for something amazing to happen?" And the light went on, ding.
Wow.
And she said, "If that's what you're waiting on, Mom, you're already amazing."
Hmm.
And I was like,
Oh, wow.
So 8 months ago, it came back to me, that conversation. I was like, who knew? That's my job, to encourage you, to help you put the roots down in life, to keep going. And here it is. Those words are coming back to me to help me keep going, to help me keep forging forward, to help me keep recognizing that there is more to this life than just pain. There's more to this life than just hurt. There's more to this life than just shrinking, just disappearing and becoming invisible in this great heaviness. And so I took it out again and I said, okay, Lord, I don't know what it's going to be, but whatever you make it, that's what we're going to do with it. And hey, this version, this final draft was birthed and born, but not just it. It has 4 siblings. So now it's a 5-book healing workbook series. And sometimes I look at it, sometimes I hear it. It just recently on November 26th became an audiobook. The first book became an audiobook. But not only did I author a book, her oldest son authored a book the same summer, this past summer.
Wow.
And now we have Hey You, a healing workbook for becoming, belonging, and breathing again. Hey You, the Poor Book 2, which talks more about the light that remains, the purpose that happens and is birthed after your grief. And then Unfiltered, the kid who asked why. And it's his story. It's their story. It's about his identity. It's about his grief. It's about his loss. But it's about him being built different and saying, that's not going to change. And I'm okay with it. And so with these new steps in our life, especially with Hey You, now when I hear it, I'm just like, who wrote that? God, who wrote that? And I think that every woman, every human being who's ever been stuck, every human being who's ever said, I just want the opportunity to keep trying. Every human being who said, I'm tired and I just need a path forward, could benefit, could be blessed by just reading this book. I've had the most amazing experiences, greatest phone calls, revealing texts, encouraging conversations from people who've just either started it or in the middle of it or managed to make it to the end of it. And I always know when people make it to the end of it. I know when people make it to the end because they come find me.
Wow.
So are any of these books or any of those chapters like specifically written towards or for your daughter?
Yes. Why I know when people finish the book is that I tell my daughter's story in the end of the book. And that entire chapter is dedicated to not just her, but to forgiveness. I needed to tell my testimony of forgiveness because people we forgive. I didn't forgive because I'm an amazing person. I forgave because I was breaking and I needed to remain the kind of person who had a heart of flesh that could raise these children. Not one anchored in grief, not one hurting so bad that I couldn't see past the thing that had happened to me. I needed to still believe that there was hope and goodness in the world if I was to raise successful, sober, productive children. So I forgave. One, because God forgave me. I for all of any of the things I've ever done that contradicted him, that went against his love, his grace, his mercy, I forgave. But I also forgave because I needed to retain a semblance of me. So I'm not extraordinary. I'm just faithful.
Wow. I was going to actually ask you about the forgiveness part, so I'm glad that you brought that up because I can only imagine what that part is like. And we'll need to have you back for part 2 to share that part of it because that alone is a podcast about forgiveness, which is something that I'm sure there's always someone we can learn to forgive and also on our part to be forgiven.
Absolutely.
So, okay. Hey You. I like the title.
Yeah. It's my signature greeting. If you ever, I think I said it when we hugged. It's how I enter rooms. It's how I acknowledge people. Hey, you, because I'm talking directly to you, not the people standing next to us. I'm talking directly to you. The goal is to connect. You talked about the woman that you saw sitting alone, and you wanted her to know that she was seen. That not only are you seen, you're observed, you're witnessed. And I think a lot of times we forget in this life that we're, hey, you. I think that we experience in this life that people observe us. But what we don't realize is to observe people is to stand afar off, to never get involved, to witness, but never get inside of the struggle, never stand next to you, never walk alongside you, never be the companion, because I'm too busy observing you from afar off. But to see people is to get in the fight. To see you is to walk alongside you. To see you is to bear your burden. I don't want people, the reason that these books are written in workbook format is because if I write them in book format, then you observe. But if I write them in workbook, then you work your healing alongside mine. And we take these steps together. You don't do it by yourself. And you don't have to. There's still good people in the world. God still has his hand on his children. The elect are still present. And those of us who still believe have the capacity to open up our hearts and share. We can go with each other. We can walk alongside each other, even if that means hand in hand. Because together we heal. And healing is winning.
Mm. And under the Hey You book, is there another book under there?
There are. So I'm live too, since we couldn't get on. But
oh, that's okay.
The second one is Hey You the Poor. So this one is a guided journal of healing and legacy in the light that remains. When people ask me if Hey You is a book about grief, no, it is not. Though there are aspects of my grief, my journey, that's part of my story. It's not the book most focused on grief. Hey You the Poor book 2 is. And it's not necessarily focused on grief, but it's focused on the poor that happens. What we don't realize is even in your grief, even though you feel broken, you are still useful. Even a broke clock is right twice a day.
That's deep.
Even when you are broken, God can still use you. All you have to do is be present and willing. So if you're looking for something that says, I need a place and a space to pour, a place to say that I'm hurting, a place to say what's left, a place to find out how I can identify my purpose from this great pain, then Hey You the Poor book 2 would be the book. But the last one is Unfiltered. This is my favorite. So this one is my baby's book, her baby's book. But it's the most amazing book because it talks about what grief looks like in a different way, in a way that I don't think that I could have captured for them, in a way that says, you know what? I got all this going on, but I'm okay with who I am. And he says it. Of course, I'm a co-author and dot all the I's and cross all the T's and make sure it flows, but it's their story. And I love them for it. It's my favorite book right now. And it's also an audiobook too.
Nice. Well, I'm going to go on Amazon and get all of them. I want that one for my son because I feel like he's kind of closed himself off a little bit, but I think that'll be a good read for him. When you said the broken, God can even use you in your brokenness.
Yeah.
It made me think of Peter in that moment when Jesus said to him, Simon Peter, Satan wants to sift you.
Yes, wants to sift you as wheat.
And in that moment, he said that. I don't think the Peter understood the gravity of that saying or that phrase. Because in the moment, sometimes someone says something, and even Jesus said it later. Everything I'm saying to you right now, you don't understand, but one day you will. And so when he said that, he goes, "But when you are healed, go strengthen your brothers." Right?
Yes.
And so even in the sifting, even though Satan had a plan for him, and Jesus had another plan for Peter, right? And Peter did great things.
Yes, he did.
And he did strengthen his brothers afterwards, and but it made me think of that when you said that, because there's the wounded healer, because we're all wounded at some level. And
Yeah.
but then there's the healing aspect of it, because we can't walk around with open wounds all the time, right? We go to the hospital, we go to the doctor because
Yeah.
we want healing. We want a Band-Aid when we get a kid wants a Band-Aid when they get a boo-boo on their hand. And we can't walk around with an open wound all the time because we wouldn't survive.
All right.
But the healing comes because that's the survival part of it. But then we also could then bring healing to other people's lives through our
Right.
story. And that's why this podcast, Tay's books, all of that brings healing, brings awareness
Absolutely.
of our grief and our pain. And I'm so grateful you're here. I'm so excited.
So I know we only have 4 minutes left. Could you share with us life lessons from these books, or some of
Yes.
the biggest
Takeaway.
lessons and takeaways that you've kind of from these books? Or
Some of the greatest takeaway for me is recognizing that everything in my life was strategically mapped out so that I could endure the greatest tragedy of my life. I didn't realize, even when I started writing these, that God strategically positioned me to experience what I was going to go through. He put me in places where I acquired the skills to raise kids of trauma. I've been in social work and social services most of my life. I've gotten so much trauma-informed training. My degree is in counseling psychology and family studies. I'm in my marriage and family therapy master's program. I've been a grief coach. I've been a life strategies coach. I've worked in residential facilities with kids who experience great trauma. And as I started writing these, I started realizing, like, wait a minute. You were making sure that I survived.
Mhm.
God was making sure that I survived, but not only that I survived, that when I was ready and able, I was able to pour, I was able to give back. And in that very, very powerful time where he came to Peter and said that Satan has asked to sift you as wheat, he follows that with, but I have prayed for you that your faith not fail you. And that is where I stand. I remember being at my laundry room and saying, I am so angry at you, but I have nowhere to go. There's nowhere for me to go, God. We have to get through this together because I have nowhere else to go. If I go somewhere else, Father, I'm going to die. I cannot leave you and you cannot leave me. So I need for you to be the God that you say you are. I know you are. I just need to see it. And as I wrote these, and as the Teddy Bear Project came into being, which is another fascinating part of this story, when I asked God for something more, not just so that my grief was appeased and relieved, but that we could touch other lives, I went to bed and I woke up with a whole project. And the Teddy Bear Project was born. And through just like Hey You, just like Grief Can't Hold Me, the Teddy Bear Project is another aspect of walking alongside individuals I'll probably never meet in this life. And today, what started as an idea, just a way to say, I want to remember you this year, is now 19 months later, 300 bears in 18 states.
Wow.
And we're still counting. And we're still
such
counting.
a beautiful ministry, and we know that God's promises are true, that he brings beauty from the ashes. And it's so hard to imagine going through such tragedy, that he could bring such light to so many people through your ministry and through the love that you put into writing these books.
Prayerfully, I hope that one of the takeaways I do have is that when people read Hey You or any of them, they walk away and say, I can do another day. I can do it one more day, God. They can do it in 24 hours. Don't live for the week. Live for 24 hours. Exist in this 24 hours. Be present in this 24 hours. Survive for this 24 hours. Love for this 24 hours. Forgive for this 24 hours. Acknowledge for this 24 hours. Trust God for this 24 hours. Just 24 hours. 24 hours and 8 intentional minutes.
Wow, Tay. Oh, we need a part 2. Well, thank you for joining us this evening. And like we always end our podcast with, don't give up, hold on to Jesus. See you next week.
Thank you all.
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godley, this is the voice of Johnson County, Joco Community Radio.
Here's important new information from the Diabetes Solution Center for you, a family member, or